We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes in the agenda. So hopefully people had a chance to take a look at that. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month?
It is so moved.
Brian, thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Jeremy. Yeah, I second it.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. And I think I heard Cameron on now. I can't see people anymore, so. No, Cameron's not on, so that must have just been Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy.
It was Carolyn.
Carolyn. Okay, I heard a cuh. All right. So that's approved. Minutes are and agenda are approved. I don't know if we have any public comments, Rachel.
No, there's no public, no resident comment in either emails or voicemail this month.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start with staff reports then, which is a reminder from you, Rachel, about playground community development.
So this is it's a really quick reminder. We've already obviously gone over this, and I'll let Amy, and if there were any other commissioners who helped out at the playground build, I know Cameron did, so it's unfortunate he's not here, I don't think, but Amy, would you like to talk about the last playground build and then the one that's happening next week as well?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel and Amanda. So we built our first community built playground at Washington Park, and it was a little over a week ago, and it was nice. We had 2 4-hour shifts, and we had residents, we had commission members, a lot of city staff, and we came together and in an 8-hour day built a playground. And it's a national playground demonstration site, so it's one of 3 in Minnesota that will be registered nationally. It includes all the what experts would consider important components of play. So things like climbing, swinging, like different motions can be found there. So if you want to check it out, it's at Washington Park. It's I'm pretty excited about it. It's a cool playground. We're going to be doing the same thing all over again next Tuesday out at Madison Park on the west side of Richfield. And different playground, but the same thing will be coming together. Commission members, the mayor will be there. We've had council members, a lot of city staff. We'll be building that playground in a day. So that will be wonderful for that neighborhood. And I also wanted to say thank you for anyone who came out tonight. We at Donaldson Park, we partnered with Tree Trust, and we planted 50 trees tonight. And I spoke to everybody who came out. We had about 50 people, and I talked about our climate action plan, and residents seemed really, really excited. I got questions about it. I was kind of bouncing around to different groups planting trees. People were very appreciative. I tried to tie in the work that we're doing. Planting the trees will help equate to hopefully a cooler city with more shade, and just talked about some of the benefits of trees. And then Joe Clark, our city forester, was there. We spoke a little bit about just the importance of species diversity with all of the tree disease and pests and climate change coming at them, just making sure like we have a robust urban tree plan to kind of combat some of that. So it was a great night. I left just a few minutes early to get home for this, but they were just finishing up. So if you're out at Donaldson Park, you should see a lot of young trees. So check it out.
Thanks, Amy. How many species do you plant? Curious.
I think tonight there was probably maybe 8, somewhere in that. We had some Kentucky coffee beans. We had different species of oak. We had basswood. I want to say like a Japanese lilac. So yeah, I didn't catch all of them, but we had a pretty good list.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a great project. The playground sounds cool too.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from the staff report section?
Nope. If you're interested in the community build, it's the same link that was originally sent out. So if you still have that, just go through that. And if you don't, just email me and I'll send it out again.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our discussion items for tonight. It sounds like first, Rachel, you wanted to talk a little bit more about the Partners in Energy Action Team. Go ahead.
So honestly, I think this is going to be a pretty quick meeting because it's just updates on what we've already been discussing. But I want to use this time for the Energy Action Team to kind of do a little more group brainstorming and update you as well. So last we talked, I think it was pretty vague in that for the Energy Action Team, we're looking to get a variety of community stakeholders to help determine the energy related goals for Richfield to undertake in this project, a 2-year-long project. But that was pretty much it. And I know I sent out probably the lingo and everything, but I wanted to update you that we have 2 city staff for sure that are committed to the Energy Action Team, and we're working on the 3rd. And so it's obviously going to be myself, and then Julie Urban, who's a member of our housing staff. And then we're working on getting a staff member from Wood Lake Nature Center to really help beef up the education part of it. And since that's a huge focus of the project, it really made sense to kind of tie it into, the efforts that Wood Lake is doing, whether it's Sunday specials or education with the schools or things like that. And especially when we're doing this project in the time of a pandemic where we really have to think about alternative education, I think it'll be really helpful to kind of tap into Wood Lake and what they've already been able to do. So that's the staffing side. Amanda has volunteered to be the commission representative for the Energy Action Team, which is great. I'm really excited to have her on board. And then I've been reaching out to do some business outreach to try and get a mix of large and small businesses. And so I've started talking to Best Buy as obviously a very large community presence, but also really energy leaders in the city and obviously nationally too. And then I learned about a small business called Lighten Up in Richfield, and their whole thing is energy efficiency. So I'm really, really hoping that we can connect with them, because I can't think of literally a more perfect business to work with in the city. So fingers crossed on that one. And then obviously have also sent out emails to both the public schools as well as a private school to get school representation. The thing I'm wondering from you guys is, do you have any ideas for businesses that I should reach out to? Because there's always more that we can look into, even if not everyone is going to come sit at the table for the energy action planning part. But then also in particular, do you know of or have any connections to social service organizations or faith communities in the city that might be good partners for this project? Because that's the one that I have a lot of like business and school connections, but not as much with the faith and social service organizations. So if you know of any groups that work with renters specifically, or the Latinx community, or the Tibetan community, or, anything that might help reach, the communities that live in housing that could use more energy efficient fixtures. That's why, we're kind of focused on renters and things like that too. So does anybody have any suggestions for that? And this can also be a thing that more of an action item to keep thinking about, and send me suggestions over email if you'd like.
Have you reached out to the Richfield Chamber of Commerce? They have a Facebook page.
Yeah, so I did reach out. Kelsey's the one who's kind of working with them now, and she's at, I think it's Morris Nilsson, that funeral home. And so she's the one who gave me the connection to Lighten Up, actually. But I don't know how much, like how strong their connections are to non-business entities. So I didn't specifically ask, and she also didn't volunteer any.
I would maybe try Assumption Church, because
Okay.
they have a large Latinx community, and I would think that some of them live in the apartments along 494 between Portland and Cedar.
That's great. Thanks, Carolyn.
Yeah, and if Assumption isn't interested, Rachel, I have some connections with House of Prayer, and they sponsor Augsburg Park to clean. And
Right.
their pastor occasionally will eat lunch with when pre-COVID with some of our lunch guests every day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I know they like to be involved. I could ask
Yeah.
them to.
That's great. Yeah, I actually had emailed Ben to try and see if there happened to be like ideally, you know, like this group where all the faith organizations in Richfield meet and then like talk about issues. But it turns out there is no such thing. So yeah, I'll definitely find contacts for both of those and reach out. Those are great suggestions. Thanks.
Well, also Ben Whalen and Dave Snyder from JCA, they do a lot of work on with the apartment dwellers. That they might be a good connection.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
happen to have?
I have Dave Snyder's contact.
That's what I was going to ask.
He would
Yeah.
be really good. He's really connected with the Jewish community.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, that's a great suggestion, Carolyn.
Yeah, Amy, if you can shoot me his email, that would be great, and I will definitely follow up with him. I know he's been brought up in some sustainability discussions we've had too. Awesome. Thank you.
Rachel, a couple of thoughts. I know that we've worked a little bit with Hope Church in the past, just because of the organic offsite that was there. So they might be interested just because they've been involved in this kind of stuff before. Yeah. And then in terms of businesses, we might have talked about this last time, but I think like a natural one that comes to mind is Lakewinds Food Co-op, just because
Kelsey suggested them too. Yeah.
And Rachel, too, with Best Buy, if you are having any issues getting in touch with anybody over there or like getting a response, my husband does work for them too at the corporate campus, and I know I've talked to him in the past about connections over there on the environment.
Yeah, for sure. I've already connected with Hugh. So hopefully, assuming he's not too busy, I should be able to work with him on some stuff. My uncle used to work for them, so yeah, but if that doesn't pan out or if he's too busy, I will definitely connect with you for sure. Thanks.
I don't know about the the Richfield History Center, but they've kind of got a prime spot. I don't know what, wherewithal they would have, but they might be some good people to talk to too. I think they operate within the Minnesota Historical Society. I could be wrong. But they're right there on 69th and Lindale, so it's kind of also a good location for signage or things like that, and I know they've had other activities. I think most of those have been kind of squashed with COVID stuff, but
yeah. All right, cool. Well, that's great. Those are all super helpful suggestions, and I will definitely follow up with those community members. If you do, like I said, if you do think of anything else, feel free to send me an email. But I definitely, unless anyone has anything else to share, we don't need to spend any more time on this. Okay. Amanda, do you want me to put the agenda back up?
Well, actually, we can go ahead and put the climate action plan up, because I know that that's our next discussion item, and
sure is
the bulk of the remaining of this meeting. Okay, so folks, Rachel sent out a revised version of this on Tuesday, I think.
Sorry, it's a little late.
It's okay. So hopefully you had a chance to take at least a quick look through it. I did see that Rachel had incorporated some of our suggestions from the last meeting, so thank you for doing that, Rachel. How do you want to kind of work going through the plan this time? Because we went through in
Right.
pretty detail last time,
Yeah.
and this time I wasn't sure what would be the most useful
So
feedback.
I can I'll go through kind of what's happened between last time and this time. So you're kind of all a little caught up, and then what the future kind of holds, and then we can see if there's appetite to go through the plan. So basically, the biggest change is obviously the design that's happened. And with that, we did do some formatting changes. So you'll notice that like a few of the pictures aren't in there or whatever. And we still have a few more formatting changes to go with white space and just tweaking it. But that was the biggest change. And then I made pretty much all of the feedback and the suggestions I got from you all went in. I can't think of anything that I didn't include. So yes, your comments were definitely heard and helped shape this plan a lot. The reason that the confusion on the timing happened last meeting was because I was thinking of the city council work session that we had for the climate action plan this week and not the official approval of city council. So technically, I don't know if we did need to make a motion to approve it to council when we had the work session, but it was good to have that anyway. So we had that work session on Tuesday, and the city council was able to, they got the plan ahead of time and were able to review it just like you all did. And give us feedback and ask questions and all that stuff. So if you're interested in watching that work session, it is on the city's YouTube page. But the feedback overall was, very positive. They're super excited, as you guys are too, to kind of see the work of, all these desires that residents have had and staff have had and, other community members have had come into a single plan that kind of looks at the next, 5 years and says, okay, what are we doing? Like, let's have a structure to this, right? So there was definite excitement about various goals and really a holistic understanding of, okay, this is not just like sustainability, but how does this contribute to economic sustainability and social sustainability and, housing and jobs and everything like that. So we had a good conversation about that. I think so the next steps are I'll take their edits and feedback and work them back into the plan and revise the plan again before we bring it to council for official approval, which I believe is supposed to happen. It's the first council meeting in October, but it's technically like the middle of October. I think it's
the 13th.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So we'll bring it to council on the 13th for their official approval, integrating all of the changes that were suggested on Tuesday. And then, between now and then, obviously continuing to get community feedback as well. I talked to the high school environmental club I think this week, might have been last week. It all blurs together. I talked to them some point recently and asked if any of the students would be interested in, reviewing the plan, to provide their perspective. And so hopefully we'll be able to partner with the high school environmental club, but they have a lot of projects going on. They're very busy. So we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of how the plan's going. And we're just, keeping on and making the revisions. So I think the biggest changes, honestly, like I said, it's mostly just, it was the formatting stuff and then the specific language. So as we all talked about, I remember the tree section specifically last time and had a lot of, you guys had a lot of great feedback for that section. I went back and edited the text for that, which is not what's on the page, but and talked to Chris after the meeting, and he was really, really excited by all of the feedback that you gave. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I wonder if anyone who has had a chance to look at this since I sent it out, or potentially was revisiting it after our last meeting, has anything they want to share. I think the biggest change going forward is, for formatting purposes, we might be shortening the part of the narrative on the sections a little bit to kind of make sure that they all fit nicely, like not like this. But like I said, it's a pretty small change. It's not going to affect the actions at all. Just trying to cut down on some of that narrative section. So, yeah, I don't know if I have any specific questions or actions for the commission. This is more of just, I guess, the CAP update and where we're at in the process.
Were you able to make it ADA accessible, Rachel?
So where you and I left our email conversation is what I was able to do. I don't know when Neil put this in InDesign, I don't know how it takes those changes and keeps them. I don't know if InDesign I don't know how InDesign works, I guess, enough to answer that question. And I don't know how to like test it, I guess, to see, how that would work. I would think since it's just a PDF, it should maintain the changes that I made in Word, but I'm not sure.
There's a way to save the document in Word as an accessible PDF. And
right,
Adobe
but he kind of like took all the stuff from Word and put it in InDesign.
Yeah.
So I don't know from that perspective. I can ask him if he can figure out, what it might have saved or gotten rid of.
Yeah,
But
that'd be good.
I don't know. Okay, I'll check in with him and hopefully we can figure out an answer to that. If he kept everything in Word, then we're in a pretty good spot, especially because most of the problems in there were with the formatting of the pictures and everything, and he kind of fixed that stuff when he moved it. So hopefully it would be okay, but yeah, I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Well, I don't know if anyone from the commission has some feedback on how we want to do this. Last time we went through goal by goal. Does anyone feel that that's necessary, or do we just want to kind of have open comments on anything that might still be lingering? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I would add to what Rachel was talking about from the work session on Tuesday. I was really happy the council was making a lot of connections to equity and climate change. And one of the requests they had is if we can make that a little more prominent in the plan, and how the goals and stuff really contribute to overall equity in the city. Because as we know, like a lot of times lower income people will probably be the most affected. So Rachel and I will kind of look for ways we can kind of have that bubble up a little bit more throughout the plan, that equity piece.
Right. It's definitely in here, but it's in here at times very vague. And there's a lot of work that we can do to strengthen that. I did, just for your information, everyone here, I but I used an equity toolkit when I was creating the CAP as a lens to create it through that. So I looked at the actions that I was prioritizing, and then I looked at the actions that were highlighted in this toolkit and kind of used the language there. So we'll definitely work on that. And yeah, that's definitely it's a large part of this, and it can be more visible.
Great. Well, I didn't hear anyone clamoring to do this.
Like I said, not much has changed. It mostly just looks nicer.
So rather than kind of walking through this slowly, does anyone have any comments on any section of the draft? You can jump all over the place if you want
to. Did anyone happen to see, there was a discussion, I think on the Richfield community page today, about the trees at Lunds, the oaks that are apparently going to be removed. Mm-hmm. And Gordon Hansen, who's the head of Fowl, and trees are kind of his special interest. And he said something about, I wish I could remember the name of it, but a lot of communities have, I don't know, an ordinance or something that prevents property owners from just taking special trees down. Is that kind of included in this document, or is that something, would that need to be something different, or does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I didn't see the thing. I didn't see the conversation in the community page, but I did have a similar suggestion last time that was like, if we could add something about like, you know, protecting legacy trees or like a tree rescue program or something. And I don't think you worded it exactly like that, Rachel, but you did include something about that.
So this one.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't sure if that would apply to property owners, you know, private property.
Right. Yeah, that's something that legally, I don't know. That's a whole thing. You're right. They're on private property.
Right.
And I don't know enough about the specific situation with the health of the trees. I'm familiar with what's going on, but with the specific trees in general, and just with their position and root structure, you know, and the fact that they're kind of, you know, not necessarily in the most conducive environment for you know, the health of those trees, it sounds like. I don't know how much longer, like, I don't want to speak to the specific situation because I'm not a tree forester, you know, and I don't know anything about those, but I do know that in specific situations where we've had large trees and then construction has happened around them in order to maintain, like, to keep the trees where they are but have the construction still happening, essentially then the trees had to come out later because the construction that happened around them effectively killed them. So even though they were still there and the trees were being maintained and they were being kept, you can't always have construction happening around these large trees because it's going to damage it's going to harm their health. So I don't know if that's the case in this specific situation, and I would encourage you to talk to Joe about that if you're interested. In terms of if the city can step in, I am also not the attorney. Two jobs I don't have with the city, and I don't think we have an ordinance for that, and I don't know if we would have an ordinance that, you know, sorry, Carolyn, go ahead.
Gordon Hansen said that a lot of municipalities do.
Okay, well, I mean, again, he might be right. I don't know.
I did try to go back and find the conversation, and I couldn't. So
okay,
I saw it, Carolyn. So just to confirm that you saw that, I saw it too, but I didn't read a whole lot of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the post now. It looks like it's one tree, and it's like one really big.
It used to be two.
Fir oak. I was just seeing this one post.
Yeah.
It's like a particular large tree. And I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that I was talking about with like preserving the legacy trees. I know this, I don't know like what the city can do, but if there's some kind of like, incentive program or something to like help try to, but yeah. And I think the thing you added about like smart business construction and things like that,
right?
The plan, I hope that this kind of thing is reflected in there where it's like, if there's a way to alter construction plans to try to like save some of these trees. But like, I think last week, Chris asked like, what's a legacy tree? And like that, this is exactly the kind of tree I'm talking about. Like the bur oaks that are around here, a lot of them are native trees that were here before Richfield was a really developed city. And this is a good example. That tree's got to be like older than the city of Richfield. So, you know, it'd be really good to preserve it, and it'd be good for, that might, even outside of the climate action plan, that might be like a good task for our sustainability commission to think about. So,
well, I bring it up because Richfield kind of has a history of private property owners taking down trees like that. For instance, it's just east of that Bethel Rock Church and kind of by the Wells Fargo. There's some like townhouses. that used to be all a grove of oak trees. And people were just up in arms when the property owner sold that property and most of those trees were removed. And rightly so. I mean, there's just not much of that left in Richfield. So I just think it might be something that needs to be looked into. And I don't know whether that's this commission or whether it's for the city council or.
So I do have a comment for this in general, and it is covered in the climate action plan. It is also something I've been talking about with housing and community development in general. The problem, it's not necessarily a problem, but the situation right now is when you have development that's being put up, there are requirements for landscaping, including trees. So I'm not sure if this is exactly it, but it's in the vein of, if you're removing trees, you have to replace them. They don't have to be in the same exact spot. And obviously it's not going to be of the maturity of whatever you're removing, but the number needs to be the same. I'm pretty sure that's right. I've been specifically talking to housing about it in terms of single family developments and kind of increasing the landscaping standards for those, and working on guidelines for where trees should be planted to increase energy efficiency, and native landscaping and things like that. So it's a little different than the larger developments, and it's definitely not commercial, which is, there's a whole lot of layers to this. But there are, efforts underway to say, okay, let's look at what we're requiring for landscaping and say, okay, if you're taking out trees that are of, X maturity in terms of years, you can't just replace it with, like this tiny little baby tree, because the ecological benefits are not equal, right? And that tree needs time to mature, whereas you already had a mature tree, it's not the same. So we're looking at that. It's not always the easiest thing. The city can require it more easily on projects that have like TIF financing, or where the city is actively having a financial contribution to a project. It does get a little harder when you have situations like this. And I don't know where that one tree in particular is. It in the middle of the parking lot? Is it on the boulevard? I don't know.
It's like
it's pretty close to Pan Avenue.
Okay.
It's the one they put the green lights on.
Yep.
It's kind of like in a little bubble of grass.
Yes.
That's in the
So
parking lot.
not a conducive environment for promoting health of this tree. It sounds like.
But honestly, it looks like it has enough space. Like
a tree trench.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like a tree trench.
Yeah, it's got like kind of a square around it. And honestly, like I think it's got enough space. Like I don't know, I haven't read the history of this. I don't know why they'd be saying.
Well, if it's close to Penn, I don't know much about this, and I've definitely not been involved in the conversation about removal or maintenance or anything. But I will try and do some research.
It doesn't look like there's a health reason to remove the tree. Like it could survive. So I'm curious what the background story is, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that at first too that it had been addressed with whoever the developer is, and from what I gathered from the very quick skim that I did before I, had something else to do, it sounds like the developer had kind of said, we'll do what we can to keep the tree. And now they're just kind of like, well, we can't keep it. We have to do,
what are they repaving or something?
Imperative part of construction.
There was a comment that it was going to possibly interfere with the underground utilities or water or something for
it was the
housing
water
that's being put in. But anyway, I don't know. I think I would assume that the developer has to, can talk to the city about this at some point. I'm not super sure. If I hear anything or I'm involved in those conversations, I will definitely update you all. But I can't comment on the tree's health or anything like that. So.
Well, I just think there's going to be a pushback from residents when they find out that tree is going, because it's like the welcoming tree to Richfield when you come in on Penn Avenue. Mm-hmm. I mean, people look for it. It's all lit up in green lights.
I mean, I would suggest, sending that opinion into the developer or the city and
Yeah.
find the appropriate outlet. I don't know, maybe Amy has more information on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about the tree this week from colleagues. I'm not sure what would be the most effective, maybe both. If collectively, someone wanted to draft a letter that went to the city manager or the mayor about the value of these legacy trees to the community, and the value they bring to people in the city. And then individually, I mean, people could contact their council member and let them know, you're on the Sustainability Commission and the value of trees in general.
Okay. I just really wanted to know if we had something in this plan or if there was already in existence something.
Right.
Councilmember Troutman, I know, went to the meeting, I think Tuesday night. There was a meeting outside by the tree, I want to say, and I think he went. So I know he's aware, but I think, the more residents they hear from,
the better.
The better. Yeah, they'll know it's an important issue.
Yeah, and even if it's just a matter of, maybe Troutman knows more, but, maybe the tree guy, sorry.
Joe?
Yes.
Arbor? Yeah, the forester? Yeah.
Forester, thank you.
Tree guy.
It's late. Maybe even if the developers would agree to meet with him and, if there's something, because one here. But one thing that I'll say is, you guys, you're a new commission, and if you can have a voice in this a little bit in some way, I think it would also just mean a lot to the people of Richfield. They're already excited about the cap, and so if even as individuals, and I may reach out to the developers or the city too and just say, hey, here's what I think. But yeah, like it's already been said, the more people who say things, the better. But if you can say, hey, I'm on the Sustainability Commission for Richfield and I want to, see what there is to do.
So
Suggestion.
yeah, and I think that's a really good suggestion. Rachel, regarding the rules, I know we're not supposed to email each other back and forth, but would it be possible, if we had kind of a project to write this letter and then, kind of have people digitally sign on to it?
I would think so, Amy, as a person with a commission experience. How would this process work?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know a lot about the tree issue. I've been kind of outside this.
You've been planting them.
Well, yeah, I've been planting. I don't know a lot about the Lunds Barley's tree. I'm just kind of an outsider to it. And I know, technically it's private property. And if we don't have policies in place, there's not a lot we can do. But I think if they hear, how valuable this is, maybe they'll see if there is a way they could save it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. To answer Carolyn's original question, I don't think the city has an ordinance to intervene in the issues that concern private property or trees on private property. That being said, I do think, and like everyone else has mentioned already, the voice of this commission or the voice of you as individuals and residents of this community, it speaks a lot, and it'll speak. The developer and builder will hear that. City council hears that, things like that. So if this is definitely something that it sounds like a lot of people are passionate about, feel free to do whatever you would like as individuals. But then also, if this is something that the commission would like to do something about, that is something we can discuss.
Could we write into the Sun Current? And
are you saying as a commission or as you, Jeremy?
Well, I know I can do it as myself. I've done it a few
right.
times, but I mean, as a commission, as a city sort of, organized group of individuals, is there any sort of policy or is there anything about that?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think I'll check with Neil about that, and I don't think it would be a city attorney thing, but I can check with whoever's relevant to that conversation. But I would. think you
I
could.
think that would get more traction and more publicity and more sort of, people sort of interested and possibly aware of the situation.
What I might recommend there, Jeremy, is something like an open letter. Like we could write an open letter to the developers and then kind of like send a media alert, I guess, to the Sun Current. And that would maybe be what Rachel has to check on. But if it was just kind of like, this is an open letter that we're posting publicly, but also sending to the developer saying.
I can kind of check on it too, Rachel. Like what?
Yeah,
what would
we
be
can
the best
do it.
angle for this for us.
Okay.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
One quick thing I was going to say is that just kind of popped into my head is, when are they tearing it down? Because we probably don't.
It would help to get the letter out before then.
Yeah. I have no idea about any of that intel, but it just kind of popped into my head that we could all go and it's gone already. Anyways.
I don't know, but based on the fact that like this has just come out kind of this week, and as staff, Amy and I haven't really heard anything about it, although like we mentioned, it's not really, our area necessarily. It doesn't seem like it's imminent. I'm sure there will be quite a few more discussions between residents who are not on this or are not in this meeting and council, as well as you all. So I don't think it's anything that you can take a year to write a letter, but it doesn't seem to be happening next week.
Rachel, one more question about this. Given that the cap is still in draft form, are we not allowed to cite it? Because there is something in here regarding Carolyn's original question under the natural resource goal, which I think is goal 4. Objective 2, 2.2 is continue to protect mature legacy trees through regular maintenance, disease prevention, and tree-friendly urban planning and construction. So I really do think we have something in there that sort of points to this exact issue, and it'd be interesting if we could cite it. Now I know it's not approved yet. So
right. If this letter comes from the commission, obviously you've had a hand in drafting it, so I think you could reference it despite it not being fully approved, as long as you say in the climate action plan to be approved by city council. Again, I would just remind everyone that that doesn't necessarily specifically apply to private property instances. At least when I was putting that action together and then revising it with Amanda's language, I was more thinking about like tree friendly planning from the side where the mature tree does not exist yet, and making sure that we are planting things in an area where it can be fully matured and not end up in a Lund situation. But both sides are valid, so I don't want to commit the city to something that we can't necessarily do, like passing an ordinance to intervene in private property issues. But I think referencing the cap should be fine, even if it's not fully approved yet.
I can check the timeline of the project too, and then I can email you, Rachel. I think I'll email Katie and just let her know like what we're thinking about and
Okay.
Well, I'd be happy to help on drafting this letter. Is there anybody else that wanted to be involved in it, the writing part of it?
I think as long as you don't email, what is it, Amy, more than 3 people, you're not violating open meeting laws?
I think so.
So Amanda, you and one other person could email each other.
I'd be happy to work on it.
Not more than 3, so I can do 2.
Oh, that's true. If you want to be risky, I guess. Carolyn volunteered. If you didn't see that.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, well, Carolyn, you and I can collaborate, and then maybe we can send a final draft to Rachel, and Rachel can distribute.
And then I can, it's
to the
nice game of telephone.
Yeah, review and comment, / approval of whether or not we can put you as.
Yeah, we'll check in on those, on the sharing aspects as you all pull that together.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, that was kind of a nice tangent from the cap, but I think it was important. Thanks for bringing it up, Carolyn. Were there any other comments about the cap?
I guess one other comment, just complimenting the Sustainability Commission, is the mayor and council were really complimentary on Tuesday with how this group formed out of citizens pushing for a Sustainability Commission and the Climate Action Plan, but it was really citizen driven. It wasn't staff or necessarily even council driven. It's something that you wanted. But they were just very complimentary of how this has come together the way it has. They're really excited. And they want to keep, the momentum and the efforts that we do really be community informed, and we engage the community, and just very community minded with the commission. So that was a nice compliment to our group here.
Cool. Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Amy. It's nice to be appreciated. I had just one really, really small comment, Rachel. I just, as I was going through, I saw an error referencing
Is it the watering one?
sprinkling. Yeah.
Yeah, I already know.
Okay.
Councilmember Supple pointed out, and it will be changed.
Okay. Like, I think that's the opposite.
Yeah,
of
we
that.
already dealt with an interesting. Yeah, I read that and I was like, oh wait, that is completely the opposite of what that ordinance says. So yeah, thank you.
Any other comments for Rachel? Going once, going twice. Sold. Rachel, this looks great. Thanks for all of your hard work on it.
Yeah, no problem.
And in addition, it's pretty now. So
it is pretty now, right? It looks so official.
It does. It looks very, very profesh. So good work with that. Okay, well, I keep missing my video. I don't know why. I think that was kind of the main thrust of what we had for the meeting. I'm glad we got to talk about the tree. That was a nice little bonus thing. Do we need to like make a motion or anything around writing that?
CSC update.
Oh,
Heather's time to shine.
Heather, go ahead.
Wasn't there, so I don't have a lot to share. But I was camping last week. So anyway,
Amy. Well, Amy was probably there.
Oh yes, Amy was there, and actually they shared the covered, because a lot of this does overlap. Sorry if there's background noise, by the way, my son's watching a movie right now. And he couldn't hear, so I had to be louder. So a lot of it was really just, going over the playground builds and the dog park that is, I believe they just started construction on that. Augsburg's probably going to be delayed now until 2021. It was going to go through this fall, but just because of, I believe it's the, there's a committee that hasn't met on it and are not meeting right now because of COVID. So, so that's probably delayed until next year. The tribal council, that's what that was. Otherwise, just a lot more updates on the programming for the, communities and parks. There have been some youth programs and, rental equipment rentals and things like that going on. And then we're looking into the fall and the winter programming, or they are right now, to see what they can do. Ice Arena is back open. And that's mostly the gist of it. I know, Amy, you can give some updates here as well. I know that one update that jumped out to me is that, not surprising, revenue's down by 2/3. So, not the best news, but of course understandable with COVID and everything right now too. Amy, I did also notice there were some updates about our events, and I selfishly am interested also to know about the Wood Lake Halloween event and the Great Pumpkin giveaway, and the farmers market. What do you know what those updates were?
Yeah. So any event or anything we do, we put together a COVID plan that we run through public safety and public health with. And I think we have a pretty solid plan together for Wood Lake Halloween. It's just been very come, everyone's welcome. Everyone's still welcome, but we have to be able to control numbers. A typical Halloween, we have 2,000 people in a very short amount of time. So this year, over a longer period of time, we have 500 people, and people will be pre-registered. They'll come in groups of 25. A lot of the activities where kiddos and families kind of traditionally congregate, we won't have, but we will have a really nice long trick or treat trail across the boardwalk. So kids can get in costumes, they'll see characters and have touch-free stations that they visit. And then when they leave, they'll get their treats. So it's a way to not have food involved with the program as well. The Great Pumpkin giveaway, we are working with our partners to put together the COVID plan right now. So we've met a couple times. I think we have something very similar to Wood Lake where we'll have families pre-register. One thing that public health does not want is just kind of a free-for-all type event, because having too many people together gets really hard to control and with the mitigation. So we're putting together that plan. I think we'd have it okayed by sometime next week. Farmers market, we are good through mid-October, and kind of the same with most of our programming. But when things get cold, when you typically come inside, that's what we're trying to troubleshoot right now. How can we potentially reopen buildings if we are not able to reopen buildings? What are some contingency plans to keep programming available for people and still be comfortable? So we are looking at purchasing through some grant funds. I have a large, like 20 by 40 tent that would be outside in the open area at Wood Lake, what we call the picnic area, and possibly do like an outdoor classroom in the tent this winter. And we can take small groups of kids, like 10 to 15 kids and our families, and do programming in the tent. We also can maybe get some walls on the Emily Day Pavilion, some portable walls. We might be able to do some snowshoe rentals and ski rentals out of there. So we're just kind of making plans. If we're not able to open buildings, what is plan B? As far as the market goes, we traditionally do have a winter market at the community center. If we're not able to open the community center, I think our focus is to do an outdoor winter market and really focus on the holidays, getting people outside. So we've looked at bringing it over to Augsburg Park and doing a short loop through the park, and possibly have some warm food for people, like cocoa, mini donuts, that kind of thing, or apple cider. So just trying to make it like more of like a holiday market, but still have a lot of the same vendors. But we typically have a fall boutique, so potentially combining the two and really having opportunities for the community to buy gifts, like homemade gifts for people at the outdoor market. I think we're starting to shift, knowing, some of the things in my mind right now are how long our winter is, how isolated COVID can make people feel, people's mental and physical health. So if we can really continue to get people used to going outside for programming right now, because it is the safest, just getting people dressed for it, get them outside. I'm going to try to continue it, as long as it's above 10, that might be my threshold. But we're trying to come up with contingency plans. So, and hopefully, we are able to open the community center in some capacity, even if it's for small groups, to come in, maybe 10 people or less for certain activities or programs. So yeah, just trying to navigate the winter ahead and still provide core services to people and opportunities to stay active and engaged. That's kind of our main goal.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate you giving those additional updates.
Oh yeah.
That I wasn't there for. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Thanks, Amy. Just real quick, Rachel, I wanted to loop back to number 6 for action items. Should we maybe, to make it official, like have a motion to write this letter so that way it's, we're not just kind of doing it via email, but it's on the books that we decided to do it?
Sure.
So we can. Okay, well, I'd like to motion for the Sustainability Commission to write a letter, an open letter, I guess, to the developers regarding this legacy oak tree, and just that we would like to see every effort taken to preserve it. Do I have a second?
I second.
Who was that?
Alyssa.
Alyssa.
Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I'm hearing no opposition, so the motion passes. And Carolyn and I will work on that and try to get it out as soon as possible, since we don't really know what the timeline is for Tree Friend here. So, okay, well, thanks everybody. It looks like our next meeting is Thursday, October 22nd. We'll be back at a regular time of 7 p.m. Same web time or same web channel, same web time. Anything else, Rachel, before we close out?
Nope, just motion to adjourn.
I have a question quick.
Oh yeah, Brian, sorry.
So, in regards to the trees, so like to prevent this in the future, I'm interested in looking at different legal precedents in other places, and how we can interact with private property to try to enforce that. Do you know what, just like case law? Is that what I'm looking for, or how?
I definitely don't know anything about law. And I think this is kind of what Carolyn was getting at, and what she was mentioning with what Gordon might have mentioned, having cities that have ordinances. So I guess the first thing would be if you can find that comment or contact Gordon to see what he knows. Otherwise, I mean, it would be a question for our city attorney, and maybe community development as well. But I don't know.
Okay.
That'd be great, Brian. If you wanted to look into something like that, I'd be super interested in knowing more about it. Any other final comments for the good of the order? Hearing none, I motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Great. Well, the
Or
meeting is
second.
adjourned. Seconded, yeah. The meeting
Whatever
is
you have to
adjourned
say.
at exactly 8:30. So good job.
Wow.